Welcome to episode 62 of the Talking Friars podcast. Ben Fadden here, coming to you after the Padres, a terrible, terrible series against the Atlanta Braves. They were officially eliminated from playoff contention on Saturday. Then they lose tonight, which I'm coming to you after this game. They had opportunities there in the ninth inning against Will Smith, who kind of lost command a little bit. He had 3 walks in the inning. They had the runner in scoring position with no outs, and they couldn't get him in to tie the game. But we'll talk a lot about it. We'll preview a little bit of the Dodgers series coming up. But this moment, had been coming. We've seen it, for weeks. It seemed like they were eliminated from playoff contention when they had the chance of taking the wild card lead in St. Louis, and they ended up getting swept. Pagan had a lead in the eighth inning, gives up the 2-run homer to Tyler O'Neill, and they lose the middle game of that series. Then they give up 5 runs in the first inning. Fernando drops that fly ball in center field in the first inning of that Sunday St. Louis game. They end up losing by a run, get swept, and then they were just like that. They were 3.5 back, and the Cardinals still haven't lost since. They've won 16 games in a row, so they've definitely earned that wild card spot. More than the Padres have lost it, to be quite honest, because of how unbelievable their winning streak has been. But it still seems like the Padres have lost it, just the way that they played. But still, props to St. Louis. The Padres again eliminated from playoff contention. Let's go through this series. It was a 3-game series, but technically 4, because of the game that got suspended in July. That was played at Petco Park. The Braves were the home team, and they did not win the game. The Padres ended up winning 6-5. They went into the game leading 5-4. This was on Friday before the real start of the series. It was ruled before the game that series started that Austin Nola had been out for the season, having thumb surgery. It happened on that Brandon Belt play earlier this week, I believe it was Tuesday, where the little blooper and Brandon Belt slid in. Nola tried, tagging him, and he didn't, have the ball, quick tag, and that's, what hurt his thumb. So he's out for the year. He had 3 injuries this year: fractured left finger, a knee sprain, and then the thumb. Really disappointing year. Only 2 home runs all season. His WAR was 0.9, so it wasn't even worth a full win. So a disappointing season. You can read more about it, that I wrote about on gaslantball.com about kind of evaluating his season, some of the positives and negatives about it. But just wanted to tell you about that news in case you didn't see that. Nola is done, so Webster Rivas was called up. So him and Caratini will catch the remainder of the games against the Dodgers and the Giants. Again, the resumption of the July 19th game. Atlanta as the home team started in the bottom of the 5th. Pierce Johnson came in to start it. Padres end up winning 6-5, so they did score another run. But this game was also delayed, which was really weird. The 7th rain delay in Petco Park history. The last one was in 2016. So some fans discovered that Petco Park still has a tarp. But in the bottom of the 6th, Daniel Hudson, who wasn't on the Padres, when this game technically began, he allowed a game-tying homer to Adam Duvall, who also, he was not in this game when the game started in July. He was on the Braves he was not on the Braves. He was on the Marlins when this game began, but he ended up hitting a big home run in this game, and that, tied it. But in the 7th, Tatis did come up huge with an opposite field home run, his 41st home run of the season, but it was really his 30th home run of the season, because the stats of this game, even though it happened Thursday, the home run, it actually counts toward July 19th. So it was actually his 30th home run. And so he actually hit his 40th home run last week in San Francisco, not at Petco Park like we were celebrating. But regardless, 41 home runs so far for Fernando. That gave the Padres the lead, 6-5. They ended up closing it out. Melanson closed it out. Tatis, again, a great season. I think he's the MVP in the National League still, regardless of how the team is played. Just that moving positions, The circumstances, the Padres wouldn't have had a chance to even win the wild card, this late in the year if he wasn't on the team and he was, hurt. But Fernando with that home run tied Phil Nevin for the most home runs in a single season. Since 2001, Greg Vaughn hit the most home runs. He had 50 in one season, but since 2001, he's tied with Nevin for the most home runs in a single season with 41. So good for him. Padres, again, they won that game. On Friday, they would lose 4-0 to Atlanta. It was 1-0. Dansby Swanson hit a 2-run home run to make it 3-0. San Diego, again, they were dominated by Max Fried. Max Fried. He had 3 hits. He allowed 3 hits through 7. Fried was at 72 pitches through 7 innings. Through 8, Fried had retired 15 batters in a row. It was a 2-hour and 28-minute game. So that just shows you that, the Padres just weren't having long, good at-bats, which is really unfortunate. You thought they'd try to keep playing spoiler, but they wouldn't win any of the other games in the series. Tim Hill, Bobby Guerra, and Austin Adams combined for 3 shutout innings out of the bullpen, so I did want to compliment them for that. But not much to say. Padres offense got dominated in this game. 4-0 they lost. Then you move to technically the third game of the series, really the second game on Saturday. They lose 10-8. This was the game that officially eliminated them from playoff contention, and boy, what a way to, officially be eliminated. They had 3 leads in the game. I wrote a story about it on Gaslamp Ball. You can check out 3 leads in the game, 3-0, 7-3, 8-7. They couldn't hold any of those leads. It started off well. Adam Frazier, Eric Hosmer homered. They got in on the home run party. That was Hosmer's 12th home run of the season. Frazier's first in a Padre uniform. That gave the Padres a 2-0 lead. 3-0 on Vince Velasquez's little dribbler. But then they couldn't keep that lead. It was 3-3. Going into the 6th, Machado hit a grand slam, which, thought, kind of put the game out of reach, right? You have a 4-run lead. You should probably be able to hold that, right? Nope. They ended up choking that. AJ Casville said it was like about a 15-minute time span between the Machado grand slam and the time that Jorge Soler hit a home run to tie the game at 7. Victor Caratini would give the Padres a lead 8-7 with an RBI single to right. But then he'd kind of screw it up. He'd kind of, offset that RBI single, allowing a pass ball off his glove to reach the backstop that got a runner into scoring position in the 9th inning. Then the Braves would tie it. They would tie it on an RBI single, a bloop single by Eddie Rosario, the former Twin, into right field. That tied it at 8. So that was on Caratini. I mean, it's hard to say. It was a blown save from Melanson because he gave it the hit, and I believe it was a walk. It was a walk or a single to Albies. So he gave those runners, but a pass ball got the guy in scoring position. So it's kind of rough to be a blown save there. That was on Caratini. In the 10th, because it was pushed to extra innings, again, they had a runner on second. And the Braves capitalized, ripped an RBI double to left field. Daniel Hudson was pitching, I believe, just a meatball down the middle of the plate. So that made it 9-8 Atlanta. Albies would then hit a sac fly to center to make it 10-8, and that's all the runs that were scored. I didn't really understand in the 10th inning, Tingler. I get Freddie Freeman's probably the Braves' best hitter, but he intentionally walked him to load the bases. Yeah, you could say that it was a force out at all bases, set up a double play, but when you load the bases, you're increasing their chances of scoring it, believe it or not, because now instead of Freeman a hitter having to get a hit to score a run, instead all they need is a sac fly, and that's exactly what he did to give the Braves another insurance run. So they won 10-8. Again, the Padres officially eliminated from playoff contention, and they deserve to be based on that game. You choked 3 leads. I know I'm a diehard Padres fan. I'm a family of season tickets. I'm the editor for the Padres fan blog on SB Nation, but it's hard not to bash the team. Just kind of getting irritated with how the team's playing. Some of the managerial decisions, you look back at the Dodger game from Tingler where He sent Weathers, Musgrove, and Camarena up there in the 5 spot behind 2 of your best hitters in the lineup, just giving Dave Roberts an out to get out of the inning and keep moving the game on. And they end up losing that game, in 16 innings. And then this, walking Freeman, which I guess is justifiable, but then you set up an easy sac fly to give them another run, an insurance run. You can go back to the St. Louis game where you have Emilio Pagan come in the 8th inning when all he did the last few weeks was give up home runs, and he gives up the home run to O'Neill when that was a game the Padres should have won. Instead, they didn't, and they ended up getting swept, and that was essentially their season. Just frustrated. Kevin Acee wrote in his Padres daily newsletter today, recording this on Sunday, by the way, he wrote this morning that people around the league believe that the Tingler firing is forthcoming, and it should be. I mean, the only question is if Preller has the guts to fire, his best buddy, but he needs to, because this needs to be a business decision. The clubhouse doesn't want him there. It's, Acee, proved that with his sources and all that. Some didn't even want him hired in the first place. So he's lost the clubhouse. He said that he hadn't, but it's obvious that he has. But let's move on to Sunday's game, another heartbreaker. Tatis, here's another Tingler decision, doesn't understand. There's an off day tomorrow on Monday, and Fernando Tatis Jr. wasn't in the lineup for the last home game of the Padres season. Yes, he ended up pinch hitting in the 9th, which we'll get to, but to not even have him in the lineup, that just didn't even make sense. You're trying to avoid getting swept. I know they won Thursday, but it was originally, as for this series, you got swept. You're trying to avoid being swept, going in, and you don't start Fernando in front of the home crowd for the last time. He's fighting for an MVP, so maybe putting him out there and giving more at bats to hit more home runs and drive in more runs and steal more bases and make good plays might help a little. But instead he didn't play him, and you have an off day tomorrow, so there should have been no excuse to play him unless he has some type of injury we don't know about. But Padres lose 4-3 to Atlanta. Again, Tatis wasn't in the lineup. It kind of felt like a disrespectful to the fans, over 30,000 people came. One of those big reasons they come is to see Tatis play because the team's out of contention. So you just want to see the face of the league. You want to see the MVP of the National League, in my opinion. And you only saw him in the 9th inning. So again, there was an off day, no excuse. Tatis should have been in the lineup. Let's move forward, though. It was 3-3 in the 6th when Orlando Arcia drove in Jock Peterson with an RBI double down the right field line, made it 4-3 Atlanta. That ended up being the game-winning run. Musgrove started this game for the Padres, 94 pitches, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 7 hits, 3 walks. He did strike out 9. Wasn't the most solid start from him, but it was a typical Musgrove, grinded out start, give your team a chance to win the game, and he did. When he left, the game was tied. Pierce Johnson gave up the lead on that RBI double. So Musgrove, what a season he's had. I think he has one more start against San Francisco. What a season he's had. One of the good stories for the Padres fans for me. I went to his rival high school. Just a good story, feel-good story. One of us Padre fans, one of us, through the no-hitter, was our most consistent starter, was our only starter to not get hurt. Just a great, great debut season in a Padre uniform for Musgrove. So absolutely love him, and I think they need to extend him. I don't think that's up for debate. So let's move to this 9th inning. This is where the Padres, their last big chance. The offense wasn't clicking totally, it felt like the whole game. You had a Cronenworth double. He almost hit for the cycle, was a home run away. You had Manny drive in Cronenworth to tie the game up at 3 before, obviously, the Braves took that 4-3 lead. But in the 9th, they had first and second, no outs. They had an opportunity. Runner in scoring position, no outs, and they ended up not being able to drive him in. Will Smith, the closer for the Braves today, he didn't really have it, control-wise, and that's what made it frustrating. Just had to be patient. Did the umpire take the bat out of a couple of our guys' hands? According to the box on the screen, yeah, but to me, it's like those are pitches that you should be swinging at, and he'd been calling them. what pitches am I talking about? Well, first and second, no outs. Fernando did pinch hit for Profar, and he struck out looking. The pitch was a ball, on Valley Sports San Diego's broadcast. If you're looking at the square, it was a ball, but it wasn't, a foot off the plate, like in the Miami game in Miami, earlier in the year. It was close, and he'd been calling it there. So Fernando struck out. That's one out. Then Will Smith can't find the strike zone. He walks Pham. So Cronenworth started, he was at second base, no outs. And the only reason he got to third was nothing because of the batters. It was because of a walk. So the Padres offense, after Jake and Manny, didn't do anything with no outs in that situation. And that's inexcusable, and it can't happen if you want to win games. And that's kind of part of the reason for the Padres. The offense just hasn't come through, especially in the second half of the year. So Fernando struck out looking after Pham got walked to load the bases. Then Trent Grisham came up. He struck out looking. Pitch was a ball, but again, it was close. He'd been calling. It was inside, but it was close. So he struck out looking, and then Kim pitch right down the middle, and he struck out swinging. Good that he swung, but it's a pitch right down the middle, and he totally swung through it. So, the Padres just didn't come through there. Absolutely frustrating. It's a game, you want to help out the Phillies because, at least you kind of get some gratification. Okay, we played a little bit of spoiler, the Phillies are only a game and a half back instead of 2.5 going into their series with the Braves for the NL East title, which is going to be really interesting to watch, by the way. But you couldn't even do that. You got, again, a runner in scoring position, no outs. You're facing a guy that had no control pretty much, essentially, and you couldn't get anything done. Fernando struck out, Grisham struck out, and then Kim swings through a pitch. And I guess that's one of the other things. The bench this year doesn't have much power, Hosmer's been on the bench, but even he's hit 12 home runs this year, and most of them is, he's been starting. He did home run Saturday. But the bench, Marisnik, there's no power there. He's known for his defense. Kim's known for his defense. There's no power there. Hosmer, there's not as much power as you think there'd be there, for the money that they're giving him. Who else? Caratini, there's no power there really. Rivas, no power there really. The bench needs an overhaul in the offseason, with power-wise. They just need, or not even just the bench, the lineup in general. But we'll talk about that in the offseason. But disappointing. The Padres got swept here. I know they won the game Friday, but that's a game in July. So the games that were scheduled, they got swept. Now they play 3 games against the Dodgers, and they finish out the year in San Francisco at Oracle Park. Again, their role now is to play spoiler. They're at 500, which is absolutely embarrassing to say. A team that had World Series aspirations, they're at 500 with 2 series to go out of playoff contention. It just absolutely sucks. The most disappointing season in my lifetime, most disappointing season in Padres history, according to people that were alive, for a majority of this, franchise's history. But again, 78-78 right now. Absolutely disappointing that they weren't even couldn't win Saturday, couldn't come through at all on Sunday. But they have 3 games now against the Dodgers. Their role is to play spoiler. 3 games against the Dodgers. Dodgers they're 2 games back, I believe, of the Giants of the NL West. So they can totally end the Dodgers, NL West title hopes if they win the series maybe, and the Giants, sweep their opponent or whatnot. They could, end their hopes. I'd rather see the Giants win the division, so I wouldn't care as much if the Padres, lost their series to the Giants to end the year than if they, looked lifeless and totally got swept against the Dodgers on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like they did a couple weeks back before that Cardinals series where they went 2-8 on that road trip. So I'd rather see them beat the Dodgers and the Giants if I had to choose one of them, because I don't want to see the Dodgers automatically get into the NLDS. I want to see those fans be quaking in their boots with a 1-game playoff against the hottest team in baseball, who's won 16 in a row now. I'd want to see them go in a 1-game playoff and possibly be knocked out after winning over 100 games, it looks like is what they're going to do, and get knocked out in 1 game. That would be awesome. So 3 games against the Dodgers starting Tuesday. Tuesday, Walker Buehler's on the mound for the Dodgers. Scherzer on Wednesday, Gonsolin Thursday. So it's definitely not going to be easy for the Padres to kind of spoil the party for the Dodgers. But maybe they'll have some pride, or maybe Buehler and Scherzer won't have good starts. But that's very wishful thinking. That's probably not going to happen. Again, they finish out the year with the Dodgers and Giants on the road. That's that. That's really the episode. We have Danny Vietti coming on Tuesday from CBS Sports. He was one of those guys that predicted the Padres to be in the World Series. And he's a national writer. He hosts a podcast with Will Middlebrooks, the former Padre. He'll be on Tuesday with me to discuss everything that's gone wrong, some things that have maybe gone right for the Padres, and the future. We'll definitely discuss that. But this has been episode 62 of the Talking Friars podcast. Ben Fadden here. Until next time, let's go Padres.